and welcome everybody to tonight's Green World is Possible online candidate forum. Just so happy that we have a nice little Brady Bunch format here of great Greens that are running for office or representing the Green Party around the country. So I'm going to go around in the order that you're listed on the screen right now. So I'll start off with Harry. If you want to introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Hi there. First, I want to thank James Lane for inviting us to speak tonight and everyone watching for taking the time to join us. I'm Harry R. Berger, and I'm the Green Party candidate for Congress in New York's 2nd Congressional District, which is the south half of Long Island, mostly Western Suffolk and a little bit of Nassau County. I'm the only Green Party candidate running for Congress in Suffolk, so even if you're in District 1 or 3, this is where we really need your help this year. I believe that the people deserve a representative in government who truly represents their interests. And the only way that's possible is when they accept $0 from corporate sources. I make it clear at every opportunity, this is a 100% people-powered campaign, and neither of my opponents from the big two parties make that commitment any way that I can find. One of them says they take no corporate PAC money, but they still have mailers that are funded by the state party, which is funded by the corporations. So how much is that promise really worth? The American people deserve truly universal health care. Out of over 50 nations the UN considers highly developed, we're the only one that lets people become billionaires by medical extortion. They literally say, it's your money or your life. Who benefits from that system? It's not you and it's not me. It's big insurance, big pharma, and other businesses who want you to be dependent on them to afford good health insurance. The CEO of United Healthcare took home over $66 million last year. That's over $250,000 every day he walks into the office. I don't know about you, but I've never made that much in a whole year. So they get rich, then they use bribery with extra steps to make it technically not illegal to put lots of money into campaigns for either incumbent politicians who support the status quo or challengers to anyone who would threaten their fortunes. Military manufacturers do the same thing until we're spending more than twice as much on war. We're spending more on war than the next 10 countries combined. Now, back in college, I was in Army officer training for the first 2 years until I decided that I don't want the story of my life to be about death, so I left. At the time, I also decided that I was saying no to making machines that just kill people. Now, for a mechanical engineer on Long Island, that means passing up most of my job opportunities, including the ones that pay the most. I want to solve both of these problems at once. Cut the war budget in half over the next 5 years to finance health care for every human being in this country, making sure that members of Congress are on the level of someone having not even a penny to their name. That's how we make sure that everyone gets good health care. So vote Berger for Congress in November. We'll have a government that kills fewer people with a healthy population.
Very cool. Thank you so much for that. Next, I'm going to ask Joseph to introduce yourself and give yourself some time to do an opening statement. Let everyone know about you, why you're running for office.
Thank you. Thank you, James, for hosting us tonight. My name's Joseph Naham. I'm running for Congress in New York State's 4th Congressional District as a Green Party candidate. I've been a lifelong Green Party candidate since I was 18. Little history about my family. I'm descendant on both sides of Sephardic Jews from Spain. In the 15th century, both sides were persecuted. They were forced to leave as refugees without any choice to hold on to their 1,000-long-year culture. And they chose to go to different countries that would accept those refugees. Fast forward, those descendants in the 20th century decided to come to a country without setting foot on it before that had just 50 years before that had a civil war, and less than 100 years before that had a revolution that had a genocide on the indigenous people. And I think that we need to be responsible and acknowledge that there isn't a lot of love in the foundation of our nation. And we also have two parties that profit off of the status quo. And I'm running for Congress because I think I would be a great leader. I have a strong moral compass. I am supporting with my life because I believe that I'm renting this earth for my children. The Green New Deal is something I value extremely highly, and also anti-violence and Medicare for all and immigration reform. I don't want to see any more human beings treated subhumanly. I also would like to see reparations and for Indigenous and Blacks. I work very hard in our community to try to improve our water quality from surface water to groundwater. And I'm currently working on a pump out boat, which goes around the South Shore of Long Island, collecting waste out of boats for free to incentivize them from not wasting it into the water. And right now, during this hard time, I think it's really important to have a community, and my website is josephnahim.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to me, and thanks for letting me be here.
No, well, thank you so much for accepting to be here. That's the biggest, that's the communication, right? I'll give you the invite and you accept it, so thank you. Next, we're going to go to Natalie.
Hello, my name is Natalie Paravicini. I'm running for Secretary of State in Oregon. And in Oregon, the Secretary of State sits on the land board, which is charged with managing the state forests. And as you all know, our state is under fire. And the Republicans and Democrats are already pointing fingers at each other. The Republicans for mismanagement of the forests, which is true. The forests have not been properly managed. There's a lot of undergrowth. But studies have shown also that the plantation forests are burning much hotter, and that's what's fueling the forest fires. Just as climate change and global warming have fueling the forest fires, it's not just mismanagement. But you don't hear about climate change in their recriminations. And actually, old growth forests are much more resistant to fires, but you will not find that in their recriminations. The Republicans are aligning with the timber industry, and they're saying, we just need to log more, as if that was going to change things long term. And let's not forget that the Republicans walked out last year and prevented a bill to improve fire protection across Oregon. And the Democrats are not much better. They're same thing. The concept is to sell your forests. The management of forests in Oregon actually funds state services, and it's a very important resource. As a Secretary of State, one of my positions is that the problem with the funding of services nationwide at the state level is really one of federal spending. 50% of our money, or more than 50% of our money is spent in the military budget. And all of our services, like a modern infrastructure, which would prevent these catastrophic fires, because a lot of them are really caused by falling electrical lines on dry tinder, on dry grass and kindle. Sometimes my English is not that good, so forgive me. Two other aspects that are very important of the Secretary of State in Oregon is that we oversee elections. And of course, as a Green Party member, I'm very, very strong supporter and advocate for ranked choice voting. We plan to have an initiative for ranked choice voting in the near future. So I'm preparing the field. I'm running this year to really set up the campaign. In 2 years, I'm going to run for Bureau of Labor and Industry. And then in 4 years, I'm going to run again for Secretary of State. And we're going to push for ranked choice voting across Oregon. And you know what? We're going to make it happen because it's time. So ranked choice voting nationwide and building campaigns so that one campaign builds upon the next and we have stay in power and build infrastructure to really build a party. Finally, the last aspect of the Secretary of State that's very important is that businesses are registered in the state, and it's the Secretary of State who oversees the registration of businesses. As a Secretary of State, one of my big proposals is that the Secretary of State needs to be much more proactive in creating wraparound services around small businesses. So when a small business wants to come on board and launch, that the Secretary of State can immediately connect them with the other agencies and facilitate the paperwork process, because it's a nightmare. I don't know. I mean, even for people who are educated, it's a nightmare. All of these paperworks and the different agencies that overlap, it's not very helpful. In addition to business know-how, all of these things. So I think that the Secretary of State has a much more proactive role in really fomenting small businesses and supporting the success of businesses. And let's not forget that corporations are not persons. And it is time that the Secretary of State makes clear that the Secretary of State creates the charters for corporations, and we, the people, can revoke the charters of corporations when they are really acting criminally and like the fossil fuel industry. So those are the messages from the Secretary of State. I ran previously in Texas in very conservative areas, and I was always invited back at the conservative radio shows because we have a message that resonates with the people, with most other people. So go green, run for office, create the structure, let's move forward. Natalie Paravicini, Secretary of State for Oregon.
Great, thank you so much. And what's your first language?
I speak French and I speak Spanish.
Right. So never apologize for your English, because how many languages do most Americans speak? So thank you so much.
And the language of love.
Exactly. That always drives me crazy. All right, great. I'm going to move to Douglas next, because like I said, I'm going in sequence of how you guys are appearing in the stream. So Douglas, would you like to say a few words?
Why, sure. Thank you, James, for organizing this. I encouraged Connecticut Greens to attend if they could, and Justin Paglino, you'll see in the panels here, has attended. Indeed. I'm a back office Green. I happen to be elected. I'm currently serving on the Board of Finance in my town in a very local role. I've run 4 times, I've won once. But I have a 10-year history now of supporting Greens in my state. I'm the data guy. Somebody has to know who the voters are. Somebody has to know how to sort them, figure out who's what party, who's ever voted, who's going to vote again. I'm that guy. I recommend you find that person in your state. It could be some old retired data geek like me, but find that person. It's not just candidates. Somebody's got to do the back office work. Thank you.
That was great. And people don't realize that, because we are a grassroots organization, and we're not huge budgets or anything like that. So like you said, reaching out to people that have the skill set, it really helps us win those
Sure.
races.
Little things like a sign you can reuse. Yeah. Think 10 years ahead. That sign's getting old.
Yeah. I know. Here's my T-shirt from the New York State Green Party, but it says "Live Green, Vote Green." It's like right there.
Yep. Ranked choice voting.
Guys, you're gonna make me pull my green native, my native vote native T-shirts.
Yeah.
That was legal.
I have a ton of those too. Hey, 2000, we're still saying the same things we were saying in 2000. Those things are still relevant.
But I think we're getting wiser. Now we understand the need to build that structure. And I think that we're much further ahead than we were before. So let's move forward and let's share how we do that, how we build that structure so we can have a package to offer people who want to run for office.
Yeah. It's very true.
Well, when Howie Hawkins first started running for president, I had a old T-shirt from when he was running for governor, and I got a T-shirt marker, and I crossed out governor and wrote president on it.
That's great. So in the mindset of moving forward, I'm going to continue with the introductions for Justin and Richard. But we'll definitely come back to this conversation, because this is exactly what this is supposed to be like. So Justin, would you like to give your opening statement?
Sure. Hi. So yeah, I'm Justin Paglino, and I'm running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District of Connecticut. I'm challenging Rosa DeLauro, who's the 30-year Democratic incumbent. And there's also a Republican in the race, Margaret Stryker, who's a real estate developer from New York. She's Republican. I am kind of new to this game. I'm new to the Green Party. I'm really happy to be a new member of the Green Party. I've been a Democrat my whole life, and kind of buying into the notion that we only have two choices, and the Democrats are going to be better than the Republicans, and kind of buying a lot of the rhetoric from the Democrats. And it took me a while to figure it out. I admit I must have been kind of gullible, but it's become clear to me that we need a third party. The Democrats have really not been fighting for the policies we need, and they're not going to, because they know they can take the left wing for granted. They know they can take the political left for granted if they're not going to lose any votes. So they have to lose votes. And where are those votes going to go? They have to go to the Green Party. In my opinion, Green Party is the obvious home for the left. I know there's been this thing this year with the Movement for a People's Party, and I'm not opposed to it. And I do think it reflects a growing dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party, which is wonderful to see. People waking up and understanding that we need an alternative left. But with ranked choice voting, we can have any number of left parties, which is kind of the nice thing. We don't have to fight with the Movement for a People's Party versus the Greens, or that we don't have. With ranked choice voting, everything becomes much more about the quality of the candidate and who you want to vote for, who you most like, not just who you want to put in to keep the other person from getting it. So my platform, of course, is similar to other folks. I want to see Medicare for all. I come from a medical and science background. I have an MD and a PhD. But I just believe, like many people, that everyone deserves health care. And Medicare for all is the way we should give it, because it's more economical, it'll save us money, and it'll cover everyone. We need to be much more aggressive with climate. We've been dragging our feet. We can't get anything through Congress. I was talking today with the Citizens Lobby for Climate Act. I forget what they're called. Citizens Lobby for Climate Action. I think I have it wrong, but they have been trying for 10 years to get this HR 763 passed, which would be a tax on carbon. And it has, maybe a few dozen sponsors in the House, and maybe 70 or 80, maybe at the most. And that's it. And, they're happy because that's like the most co-sponsors that actual climate legislation has ever had in the House. And we're just so much time has gone by on the climate. So many years have gone by with people's healthcare needs being unaddressed, and with the inequality of the unfairness of the economy and the going unaddressed. Anyway, I'm very optimistic because with ranked choice voting catching on, becoming more popular, becoming more widely understood, we finally, I think, have a chance of having a democracy where third parties aren't just castigated for being spoilers. We can be seen as just another option, and people can rank who they like the best first, and then rank who they like second best. And it's going to be such a game changer. It's really exciting to watch what's happening with Lisa Savage's campaign in Maine, because they have ranked choice voting. Yeah. So, but I'm going to be debating Rosa DeLauro on October 22nd. I'm really excited that I'm going to get a chance to actually debate her and Margaret Stryker. So we'll see how that goes. And but I'm going to try and prepare as best I can. But yeah, Green Party, we need to build it from the bottom up. We need more people. And I think we're going to get more people, people like myself who are disaffected Democrats who are just tired of it. Anyway, I'll stop there.
That's great. Thank you so much. And next, but not last, because I see Marsha's there too still, we're going to go to Richard, if you want to give your opening statement, even though you don't have a traditional opening statement, but just introduce yourself to everybody. You have to unmute yourself first, though. Sorry.
Hi.
There you go.
I'm Richard Weiss. I am the Green Party candidate for Pennsylvania Attorney General. I'll read something that was published in the Green Star. My priorities as Attorney General would be to save the taxpayers' money. I hope that's popular. And to do that, I believe we should reduce prison population, and I think reduce by 50%. Only those who are actually a threat to the community should be incarcerated. That means we would end the practice of cash bail, where people who have not been convicted of any crime are held in prison, and for the only reason that they don't have enough money for bail. Prosecutorial resources could then be directed to addressing more important issues like actual violent crime, combating corruption, and consumer protection. We should also focus on reforming of the system of policing. This would involve citizens review boards that would have citizen participation in overseeing police conduct. But that would really only be the start. And even that will be a big deal if we could achieve that. But to really achieve a big change, I believe we would need community and police to work together to establish standards of conduct. And then we would need special prosecutors who focus on police conduct issues. Because ordinary prosecutors really have a conflict of interest, and that's why I think it's very difficult to prosecute police, because in order for ordinary prosecutors to carry out their job, they need cooperation of police in order to prosecute cases. Secondly, DAs run for office and they receive donations from police unions. That's another conflict of interest. And third, if there actually is serious police misconduct, who will provide security or protection for the prosecutor? When the prosecutor is prosecuting violent crime, they have protection of police. And sometimes criminals are not happy being prosecuted. Sometimes prosecutors need security for just ordinary crime as well. But if the police are the ones being prosecuted, they may feel more reticent to provide the security. So I think we would need prosecutors who focus specifically on police misconduct and have their own security. And that would be a long-term goal. I don't think that's going to be achieved very quickly, but we could start with the citizen review boards. That's my platform.
Very good. Thank you so much. Now, Marcia, are you still there? Oh, there you go. Now you're appearing.
Yeah. I was letting the other candidates have the floor, in this Brady format. You guys can call me Marcia, Say my name 3 times and then vote for me, right? So yeah, my name is Marcia Squire, and I'm running for U.S. Senate here in Michigan. I joined the Green Party back in 2016 to run for U.S. House against Clinton superdelegate. Bernie won Michigan here, and all the superdelegates in Michigan unanimously voted against the winning candidate in what is, I consider, the single largest form of voter disenfranchisement ever. Each of their votes was worth well over 10,000 votes each. And, so I felt like my vote was stolen. And I was also heartbroken that basically Bernie let them steal my vote. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to run myself, because sometimes if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. So I ran for U.S. House in 2016, and I was also a Jill Stein delegate to the Green Party National Convention in Houston. So I've been committed to helping this party grow. Everyone's a fan of the underdogs, and obviously this party has the best platform. And I think it really deserves a shot, being the 4th largest party in the country on a non-corporate budget. So I'm very impressed, with the strides the party has made so far. And I appreciate my, forefathers in the party, and I also appreciate the new Greens that are, joining the ranks. And so, yeah, in 2018, I ran as well for U.S. Senate against Debbie Stabenow, and I got third place of 5. And this time around, I'm running again for U.S. Senate against the other Democrat incumbent, Gary Peters. And I'm building on that 2018 run. I got 1% of the vote with my third place. And right now, I'm currently polling at least 4%. So, and I've raised less than $2,000. So I'm really excited that, people are hearing my message, and it's been 4 years, and it takes a little longer than if I was backed by a corporate party. But, like the others say, the corporations are not people, and I'm running to get corporate influence out of politics. I would be breaking the Guinness Book of World Records for the least amount of money raised for a U.S. Senate win. And, that'd be amazing on this 100-year anniversary of women being able to vote. So some of the things I'm running on is like a GI bill for all is what I've been calling it, where we all have guaranteed healthcare and education, just like our military do, but that you could do community service instead of military servitude, sort of like a domestic Peace Corps, if you will. And then to go hand in hand with that, we're going to bring our troops home and end the endless war that we just, celebrated 19 years of being at war. I was pregnant with my adult daughter when that happened. And so I'm running to help bring our troops home and spend that 53% on, better things. I think that the executive branch shouldn't get more than 1/3 of the budget. So 33% should go to the military, not 53%. And we could definitely use that money elsewhere on health and education instead of death and destruction. And so to go along with that as well is my jobs program called #Hire, which stands for healthcare, infrastructure, renewables, and education, which essentially, if we all have healthcare and education for all, we're going to need more healthcare providers as well as more educators. And since obviously not everyone is cut out for college, we're going to need help in skilled trades in terms of infrastructure renewal and renewable energy. I'd like to get us fossil fuel free by 2030 and incentivize small businesses and municipalities for early completion of eliminating their carbon footprint. And also with tax incentives to keep businesses small, where the smaller businesses get the bigger tax breaks, and then the bigger businesses get the no tax breaks. So we can end this, companies like Verizon essentially getting a refund, or companies like Walmart having their employees on, government assistance. We need a livable wage for all. And if we had a proper tax system in place for these corporations, which are not people, then I think we'd have a lot, easier time allocating those funds. And so with that being said, vote for me. I only need 33.34% of the vote to win. And we can do this. We can make history. And, tell your friends. Vote for me. Marcia Squire for U.S. Senate in Michigan.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Those are great statements. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of open up the floor to just general discussions. And probably what you could do, if you have ability, just raise your hand. I'll just go in that sequence and just call you that way. One of the biggest things I want to find out, actually, I should talk about this because I'm still pretty raw from this. I think because we're getting 2 months until the election, so the amount of pushback I'm getting on voting green is just out of control, because everyone's worried about Trump and Trump this and Trump that. And, but Biden would be so much better because he's going to surround himself with better people and all this kind of stuff. And you guys aren't running for president. You're running for local offices. We always go through the whole thing of like, yeah, we get it. We know that you need to run a national candidate, but you should focus on local. And then when we say we're focusing on local, it's like, yeah, you don't have a chance to win because nobody knows you nationally. So it's like a really ridiculous thing. So I wanted you to probably share with me. I I guess, say it nicely, share with me frustrating arguments that you've had while running for office, and maybe how you've used those situations to turn people's thinking around to see that, the Greens are actually viable candidates and we are actually candidates with solutions and real chance if you just give us a chance and vote for the candidates. So who would want to tackle that first? Okay, Justin?
Oh, yeah. When I made my announcement, there wasn't much there in the way of press, but I got one question from the press, which is, who are you going to vote for president? Right? Like, and I had to, I was like, man, I didn't want to be talking about that, but that's where a lot of people's minds go immediately. A lot of people's focus is on the presidential election. People are, Trump focused, and that's unfortunate. I think a lot of people's attention gets drawn towards the top of the political food chain, but it's unfortunately being used as a cudgel against Green people like us, Green Party candidates. I think because people will go on the website and say, "Oh, well, Justin said he might not vote for Biden. He might vote for Howie Hawkins." So, it's like, and so that's used against me. That's used to suggest that I'm part of the problem. I'm going to help Trump get elected. But this is the whole Democrat strategy: is saying we're not Trump. And I've heard somebody say, well, okay, that's not really a platform because if you're elected, Trump will be out on day one. So that's once you have that done, then what? Getting rid of Trump is just like the first thing you do. If you're elected, it's already done. So then what do you do? But again, I like to take the opportunity when people talk about the spoiler effect, I always bring it back to ranked choice voting, because you just got to always bring the conversation back to ranked choice voting, because people go back and forth on the spoiler effect argument all the time, and it ends up going nowhere unless you tell them there's a way out of it. There's a solution. They're using it in Maine. They're going to use it. They used it 2 years ago in their House races. They're using it this year in the Senate race and the House races. So most people haven't heard of it. Once you explain it to them, they say, "Oh yeah, that sounds great. I like that. It's a good idea." Yeah, it's a great idea, and it'll give us a much better democracy because you can vote for the policies you want and you believe in. I mean, I can't believe how many people, there's peace activists who are going to vote for Biden, right? There's peace activists who are going to vote for Joe Biden, who voted for the Iraq War, who's a hawk. Peace activists who feel pressured into feeling they have no other choice than to vote for this guy because they feel they have only one other option that they feel is worse. So, and then there's Medicare for All advocates who will vote for Biden because, again, they feel they have no choice. Of course, they do have a choice, but they're worried about the spoiler effect. So when you tell them that we can get rid of the spoiler effect, I think it's a very appealing message to a lot of people. People are tired of having to vote against what they really want, not being given the chance to vote for what they really want without this fear of the spoiler effect, without this fear of being castigated and voter shamed by Democrats. I've had friends on Facebook accuse me of wanting Trump to win because I'm running as a Green Party candidate. Like, what do you want, Trump to win? What? It's just crazy. So the thing about ranked choice voting, it's not going to come from the two major parties because they're the ones who benefit from it. The two-party system is a result of the way we vote. It's Duverger's law, which is a law that says, if you can only put one person on the ballot, eventually the number of parties will narrow down to two. And because of the spoiler effect, first past the post.
Uh-oh. See that? The Democrats got to his signal.
Well, to pick up from him until he comes back, I totally agree. Ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah,
No,
go
I'll
ahead.
stop there. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, Natalie, you're next. Well, perfect. Thank you.
The other thing that I would like to point out is that in the 2016 elections, only 58% of Americans who were eligible to vote. So I'm not directing myself at Democrats or Republicans. I'm directing my message at the 42% of the American voters who do not have representations because they don't find that their views are represented by the Democratic or the Republican Party. And if they have a beef, if they have a problem with me running and expressing my political opinions, please press your representative to enact ranked choice voting. It would totally make it easier. It's not my problem. It's a established party problem. That's basically.
Yeah,
And I don't engage. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to argue. Or just like maybe have your little template, two templates of, because you're going to get a ton of email, right? Your little 2-3 templates. You collect all of those emails, and once a week you just blind CC and send the message out, because I'm not going to spend my time there or arguing back and forth. Always respectful. It's your opinion. You're not going to tell me how to vote. It's my choice, or what to do. But so focusing on the independence and ranked choice voting. And also, the League of Women Voters initiated the presidential debates. How come we have to raise millions of dollars and have corporate sponsorship to be able to debate ideas? We just want to sit at a table to debate ideas. You can vote whoever you want. The best ideas win. So.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Joseph next.
Yes, Justin and Natalie, those are great points with ranked choice voting. And we have in New York State, I believe Syracuse is working to try and make a referendum for their city to have ranked choice voting implemented. The one go-to response, peaceful response when people say, "What's ranked choice voting?" And you gave great answers before, and you say they ask why haven't they implemented it? And that's the good question. They had 19 years since Gore, Nader, and Bush to solve the spoiler issue. They're always complaining about the spoiler issue, and the answer is ranked choice voting. And never once has a Democrat in the House, when they had the majority or the minority, or a senator or a president, said, we could fix this spoiler issue with just a bill making elections have ranked choice voting. And I'm totally in favor of ranked choice voting. In the other elections that I've run in, the media has definitely avoided mentioning my candidacy. I ran for city council in Long Beach twice before, and for state assembly once before. And you have to look at different novel ideas at getting your message out there. League of Women Voters is very helpful. I had a running mate for city council who put a sign on a bicycle trailer and just rode around town, which was great. A lot of notoriety in that. And just basically being ourselves, sticking to the 10 key values. And that's going to fight and push. We also have an organization called the Global Greens that has representatives from other countries all meet together, including our country. Democrats, Republicans don't have that. How are they all, we could ask your opponents, what are the counterparts in Egypt or Spain working on for COVID? They don't have any. But there's a Green Party all over the other, countries in this world. And we think globally. And that's pretty powerful. they're thinking about profits and getting reelected on day one when they were elected. And that's kind of another thing I like to talk about. So this is good.
Yeah.
Good question.
No, thank you so much for that. Okay, so next I have Harry, please.
Hi there. So one of the things about election law is that it is done on a state-by-state basis. So the federal government doesn't get a vote on what the election law is. That's your state legislature. In New York, that's the Assembly and the Senate. And they could have, in New York right now, the Democratic Party owns both houses and the governor's seat. They can literally pass any law they want anytime. They could give us ranked choice voting right now if they wanted to, but they don't. Instead, what they decided to do is double down on being anti-democratic. So most New Yorkers don't realize this. The first COVID emergency bill that they passed had a little rider tucked in there that says, instead of the way it used to be, where if you run for governor and you get 50,000 votes, your party is on the ballot for the next 4 years. Now, you need 130,000 votes or 2%, whichever is bigger, and you need it for governor and president. So it's basically 3 times as many votes, twice as often, in order to maintain ballot access. Now, ballot access is important because it substantially reduces the number of signatures that candidates need to collect in order to get onto the primary. So I would have needed to collect over 1,000 signatures to run for Congress as an independent. But because I was running on the Green Party line, I only needed something like 35, which obviously makes a big difference when you're trying to run in down ballot races. Now, the reason they did this is because Governor Cuomo had a sad over the Working Families Party not cross-nominating him last time he was running for governor. He felt like he was entitled to the Working Families Party nomination, but he didn't go far enough to the left. So they nominated Cynthia Nixon, and he decided to fix their wagon and ruin all other minor parties in New York State in one stroke. Now, the Green Party has a lawsuit along with the Libertarians that are fighting this new law, saying that it's unconstitutional. But that's another big reason why right now we need you to vote Green for president, because if Howie Hawkins doesn't get 2% of the vote this year in New York State, the Green Party will not exist anymore. Will be just independents. It just makes things so much more difficult for us to really run any candidates.
Yep. True points. Very sad but true. Marcia, you're next.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would like to say, I get objections from different sections. So when the Democrats hate on me for running as a Green, I point out that the Green Party or the Democrat Party of Michigan doesn't primary any of their incumbents. They have this, unspoken rule. You only go after the Republicans. You would not even dare walk in and run against the highest Democrat in the state, and so I point out that there's millions of them, and it's not my fault that none of them primaried any of these incumbents, and I'm also not going to join a corporate party trying to get corporate influence out of politics. So I'm going to run where I'm going to run. It's not my fault you guys didn't even try to primary him. And if you have a problem with the fact that I'm in the general election, well, the way Michigan voting works is it's actually easiest to get on the ballot as a third-party candidate. We have 7 recognized parties, 3 on each left, 3 right, and 1 no leaning, no platform, and then independents. And it's twice as hard to run as an independent as it is a Democrat or Republican, because you're running for the general election, so you need to get twice as many signatures. But to run as a third-party candidate in a minor party, you only need to get votes at a state convention. So it's about 30 to 45 votes can put you on the ballot for U.S. Senate in a statewide race in the 10th largest populated state in the country. And so, I'm going to run the easiest way for me to get ballot access, and it's in a party that I believe in and a platform I believe in. I believe in election integrity, and I do support ranked choice voting. But I also point out when they object to my campaign is that, our machines are all connected to the internet anyway. So vote your conscience, they can just steal your vote. And, you've got Democrats talking about voter suppression, Republicans talking about voter fraud, but the Green Party is talking about election fraud. And I do support Jill Stein and the 2016 recount here in Michigan. And we could actually have a doctor in the White House right now dealing with this pandemic if more people had voted Green in 2016. So I'm very content with my choice to vote for a doctor in 2016. And actually, this time around, when I get objected to from the right, I point out that I was, and I forgot to mention earlier, but I was a Jesse Ventura 2020 delegate to the Green Party National Convention this year. And, so he was my favorite for this time around, him and Tulsi Gabbard. And I point out that they're, pro-peace veterans. And why are we spending, 53% of our budget on the military when we could be spending our tax dollars on ourselves? So it's my right to run as a Green, and everyone else should be also running in any way that they can, but you really should support the only non-corporate party out there that, like was mentioned earlier, is global, and that, that runs globally. We're all non-corporatist. None of us take corporate money, none of us take PAC money, and none of us take super PAC money. And so it's really a party that I can get behind. A great underdog, the superhero in the movie that maybe once it's old enough, saves the world, And so, yeah, when I have those objections, I'm very confident in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and where I'm doing it at.
Great, thank you so much. Natalie asked me put back on the stack, but I wanted to see if there's anybody else that hadn't spoken yet, if they'd like to mention something. I'm looking at you, Douglas, and you, Richard. Okay, you have to unmute yourself, Douglas.
Thanks. This has been an interesting conversation for me. I do a lot of work in local politics, and in that type of politics in Connecticut, there are multiple winners. And so it makes it more like ranked choice in that when there are multiple winners for Board of Finance, where I sit, or Board of Ed, you have a reasonable argument that, sure, you can vote for your favorite party, but what are you going to do with your other votes? Who do you want to sit next to your other favorites? And so I've done a pretty good job in my community making those arguments on the local races, so they've heard the argument before. Now, when we get into these even numbered years, when we're working for Congress and president and such, I point out in my state, not every state, but in my state, the Democrats have about a 13% edge. You're not going to elect Trump by voting for Howie. Not by a long shot. So Jill was able to get 1.6% or so here. Other Greens have gotten more than 1%, and that's what Connecticut Democrats require of us in order to remain a minor party. So when I get challenged by Democrats, I throw it back to them. It's like, give us ranked choice voting, and we'll probably consider you well in our ranking. But we want to be heard, and you keep requiring us to run in races in order to remain a party, and so we're running in your race.
Very good. Richard, did you have anything to add?
Mm-hmm. Yes, what I tell people is that I send them an article that says that exit polls show that people who voted Green in the past were people who were not going to vote at all because they did not like either of the major party candidates. So the Green Party doesn't really steal any votes from anyone else. What they do is they bring more people to the polls to vote.
Yeah, very valid. And on that, I'll share with you guys, it probably make me illegitimate as your host, but I was one of those people in 2000. I was 35 years old, never voted for a Democrat in my life. But because Nader was running, I was like, and I found out about the Green Party, and I felt like so stupid that I'd never heard about the Green Party in my life. And and I've been a Green ever since, and have never looked back. So you're absolutely right. If there wasn't a Green Party now, I'd still not be voting. I would not vote for these choices that are presented to me. My integrity is such, and I used to suffer the slings and arrows about how people died for the right to vote, and I said, well, then give me some better damn choices. So anyway, so I'm going to come back to Natalie.
Oh, I was going to make the same point that Douglas. So I was just going to basically recap. When people complain about us being spoilers, what the answers that I've captured here were first to focus that if your party instituted ranked choice voting, we wouldn't be dealing with the issue of spoiler. The fact that we focus on independents and non-affiliated voters, not on your Democrats and Republicans. That non-affiliated voters are becoming a larger part of the electorate every time. That in some states where the state is going to go Republican or Democrat, it makes a much stronger message to vote Green than to vote for either Biden or Trump. And in some states, the Democrats or the Republicans don't even run challengers to them at their incumbents. They really make it almost no choice. And if anybody has anything to say, but those were my points that I heard here.
Great, thank you so much. And what I want to do is I want to focus on, so we talked about the problems, all right? And I don't want to be, I don't want to focus on negative. I want to talk about your campaigns, your individual campaigns. And if there's one issue on your platform that you're running for that you can enact on the first day that you're elected, what would it be? So I'm going to go around the stack again. Maybe I'll just go in the same order that we started. So Harry?
Give me just 1 second.
Sure.
Excuse me.
COVID. No, just kidding.
No.
You guys look disapproving. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't joke about that, but See, Doug's getting a good laugh out of it. Come on, we have to. These are tough times, so
It's Zoom. It's okay.
It's Zoom, exactly. And we take this stuff really seriously, just to let everybody know. But we're Greens, we're musicians, we're comedians, we're activists, we're human beings. So anyway, Harry.
Go, Harry.
In terms of the if I had only one wish, the first one is certainly universal health care, which I already talked about. But second on that list is that the Green New Deal. That's something that Howie Hawkins has been pounding the drum on for over 10 years. And it's something that we really need right now. We need to take really drastic emergency steps to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, because we're seeing the costs of climate change right now with literal tornadoes made of fire on American soil, and more and bigger and more dangerous hurricanes. We're having another hurricane hitting the Gulf Coast while they're still haven't finished recovering from the previous hurricane. The ice caps are melting. We had 100 degrees temperatures recorded at the North Pole and in Siberia earlier this year. It's just, if we need to wake up and we need to really commit to getting to no carbon emissions by 2030. Joe Biden plagiarized the name and watered down the plan, calling his the Green New Deal. But their targets are talking about net zero by 2050, and that's just not fast enough. It's not enough to save us. The human race will not survive if we keep the climate warming up. The Earth will go on, life will go on, but we won't.
Yeah, very good. Richard?
Well, in general, I would like to see Medicare for all on day one. That would be great. And I'm a full supporter of Green New Deal. As Attorney General, immediately, I would want to instruct prosecutors to not seek cash bail. And I would also say that to drop all charges related to simply cannabis possession. And that would effectively, hopefully, decriminalize cannabis possession. I think that would be a great first start.
Cool. Thank you so much. And Justin?
Yeah. So I've been running first and foremost on Medicare for All because my opponent, Rosa DeLauro, has not co-sponsored the bill. There's 118 co-sponsors on the bill in the House, and she's not one of them. I don't think I need to reiterate all the merits of universal health care. I think everybody here understands that, although, so let me talk about just a couple other things. There's also a federal bill on ranked choice voting. There's a federal bill on banning fracking. There's that Green New Deal bill that's non-binding. That doesn't really mean anything. We need something really, we need a Green New Deal, but we need like legislation that makes it actually happen, where we can employ people. I like a federal jobs guarantee, putting people to work with the federal government as a employer of last resort. Universal pre-K, free public college. People need a living wage. People need paid family leave, paid sick leave. We need to reduce Pentagon spending. We need public campaign finance. We need public, democracy is a public good. We need it publicly financed. Campaigns are really expensive. It's a real impediment to running for office. I've found this out. It's very hard to get donors. We could have a debate we could have democracy be about a competition of ideas rather than a competition of who can raise the most money. And it would make such a difference in improving our democracy. So, but anyway, number one for me is I would immediately co-sponsor the Medicare for All bill that's in the House and do everything I could to call for it, for a discharge petition, to have it brought to the floor for a vote, which is something Nancy Pelosi just doesn't seem to want to do, doesn't even want to have a vote for a bill with 118 co-sponsors, because she doesn't want to have to go on the record that they don't really support it.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, one thing I wanted to chime in on about you mentioned was campaign, like raising donations, especially now during a COVID crisis where people are losing their jobs. It's ridiculous, and that's why since I became a Green and I've, one of the things we support is like publicly funded, campaigns, where like the government's actually funding your thing, so you're not going out and reaching out to people to donate. And and actually I feel, wouldn't it be so great if they made it a law or made it illegal for people to collect donations and then drop out of a race, Bernie Sanders, and not refund that money back to people that gave whatever hard-earned money that they had, thinking that you're going to run all the way to November just to drop out and endorse somebody that you didn't want to run. I mean, I think if you sort of penalize them that way, maybe that would help create a publicly funded election. So anyway, just throwing that out there. So anyway, Marcia?
Yeah, I agree with Justin, and there's so many things to pick from. It's really hard to pick just one, but if I got my one wish granted, it would have to be to repeal the Controlled Substances Act. I believe it's of 1970, because I believe that cannabis was illegally made illegal. And so that would probably be the easiest way to, and we need to retroactively decriminalize, legalize cannabis. And so that way anybody that is in jail for cannabis-related charges can get out of jail. I believe that cannabis is a preventative. It prevents cancer. It not only, has a lot of after the fact benefits, but before the fact as well. And so if we can't get like a Medicare for all, I think that, cannabis would be a great boon to not only the economy, but to healthcare prevention and, mental health, people with PTSD. It's that's a pandemic in and of itself these days. And it's a pretty accessible way for anybody can just grow it themselves and consume it themselves. So that for me would probably be number one. and the easiest thing to do in order to get, preventative care back on track for mental health and, physical health as well.
Great. Thank you so much. So right now we're at 9:35. So I think to be on the safe side, and I don't normally say this, I'm going to be conservative. See, I love Douglas so much. He gets my old man jokes. But so what I want to do is I want to go and get closing statements from you guys, sort of start to slowly wrap up. But if there is time, we could still, still vibe on something else too. But I just want to make sure that I get like any last bits from each of you, because you're all running, like I said, you're running very important races. Every green race, in my opinion, is an important race. And thank you for taking that charge, because we need more courageous souls like you to do it. Because it's not an easy thing, and we've talked about this on the call so far. So I'm going to go in reverse order. So actually, Marcia, since you started, since you were last, now you're going to be the first.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on and for the invite. I do appreciate the coverage and the support of Green Party candidates and the promotion of other candidates besides just myself. I think that, we need to have that bottom unity, because like I have mentioned earlier, our platform is universal, with the 4 pillars and the 10 key values. And, I might not have 100% agreement with all the members of my party, but one of the things I like most about the Green Party is that as a non-corporate party, none of us have a louder voice than any of its other members, so I have the right to my First Amendment right to free speech within the Green Party. I have never been silenced. I have never been told not to speak. I have never been told to be quiet, and I've never been told not to run against who I want to run against. And so I really appreciate, the Green Party and all of my supporters. I was never a Democrat or a Republican. I consider myself an independent that joined the Green Party in order to help the people of Michigan have a pro-peace, non-corporate advocate in DC. So with that being said, thanks again, and I'm looking forward to November.
Great, thank you so much. So next is Richard.
I'd like to echo what Marcia said about cannabis, controlled substances, that the record should be expunged, and currently incarcerated people should be released for cannabis charges. U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the developed world. I think we will benefit from reducing the prison population rather than building more prisons. And so I would move towards ending cash bail, ending pressing any charges related to merely drug possession. I would also believe it's essential that we develop new policies for how police conduct policing, and that will require a dialogue between the community and the police, and it requires legislation. Those are my primary goals as Attorney General.
Great, thank you so much. So up next, I'm sorry, my screen got froze there. Justin?
Thanks. Yeah, so my message to voters is that if you want something, you have to vote for it. The things that I'm standing up for, the things that I believe in, I believe they're not fringe positions at all. They're very popular positions, to universal health care, ranked choice voting, a ban on fracking. I support term limits. I support a Green New Deal where we have put people to work, creating the clean green infrastructure that we need. I support a living wage, paid family and sick leave. I support reducing our spending on the Pentagon so we can have more money for human needs. I support public campaign finance, community control of the police, a foreign policy that isn't constant war all the time. We need to seek peace in our foreign policy. We need to legalize cannabis, end the drug war, treat addiction, and we need free public education for pre-K and beyond secondary school. So these are all pretty popular ideas, but people are afraid to vote for a third-party candidate because of the spoiler effect. And I know a lot of people are, and a lot of us get told that we're a problem. We're a problem to even be running as a third-party candidate, to even be running for these positions that are popular. And people, if they vote for a Democrat, they're voting for someone who's not going to support most of these things. So if you want these things, you have to vote for them. It's the only way you'll ever get them. Don't vote for somebody who's going to say, oh, who's going to say, well, I like the idea, I'll see what I can do. They're not going to do it. With ranked choice voting, we can have a system where everyone gets to vote for the things that they actually want. And then I think we'll actually get a lot of these policies.
Great. Thank you so much. Sorry, moving down the list. There's a lot of chats going on. I wish they would chat in the actual comments, but everyone's chatting. I mean, not our chat, but I'm talking outside of the stream. People are talking to me directly. I'm like, dude, join the stream. Let's, ask questions there so it can, have you guys answer. So Douglas, I'm going to go to you. I know,
Thank you, James.
Sure.
I've appreciated this opportunity to listen to candidates outside my usual turf. This year, I've been supporting Lisa Savage up in Maine because of the ranked choice voting, which is probably my biggest issue. I'd like to point out, I didn't hear anyone else mention it, that with ranked choice voting, you don't need primaries. You never would have had Trump or somebody else who has only 19% support in his own party.
Right.
You don't need to say bad things about your opponents because eventually people will figure it out. And candidates who can't quite keep up, for instance, like Harris this year with finances or skill or whatever it was that didn't make her good enough to be president, can stay in the race with ranked choice voting. If you qualified to be in the discussion, keep going, you'll ebb and flow. Let's see what happens on election day. And I think those are other elements of ranked choice voting that I don't hear people mention much, but I'm tired of paying for other people's primaries. In my state, all of us pay for the primaries that benefit only 55% of the voters. And we're locked out of those primaries. It's not like we can walk in and say, I'd like to express my opinion, please. No, I pay for it and I get silenced. So I think that needs improvement. And I think ranked choice voting has the potential to do that. And therefore, I've been a big supporter of Lisa Savage in the US Senate campaign in Maine. And she has $120,000 raised the green way across the nation now. So that makes it a pretty big race by our standards. And I think it's because of ranked choice voting that people like my friends here in Connecticut are supporting somebody 200 miles away. Thank you, James.
No,
I appreciate this meeting. This was fun.
Yeah. I hope we have more of them. I just try to keep it casual, not as a formal thing, but just overall discussions. So Natalie, you're next.
Yes, thank you very much. This was wonderful. And as a Secretary of State, of course, ranked choice voting and electoral reform are huge. We have a clean campaign also in the state. And with the current fires, management of land forests is a key issue. And we do not need to pit jobs against nature. We just need common sense. And after the Zoom, I wanted to check with a couple of the candidates, but this is a great opportunity to really build a party state nationwide. Thank you very much, James. This was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad that you like it. And like I said, after I stop the stream, everyone's still free to welcome if they have time to just hang out and just casually chat, All right. So next, sorry, switching screens all over the place. Joseph.
Thank you, James, so much. This was great. I wanted to just talk a little bit about Nassau County and Long Island in general, there was a Newsday investigation into the real estate industry where they, it's a big scandal. They segregate basically people of different races into communities and don't offer homes in more affluent communities to minorities. And it's happening now, and it's happened to millions of people since the civil rights movement. And I mean, yeah.
Redlining was born here.
That's okay. You can keep going.
Thanks. The person who's currently the congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District receives an exorbitant amount of campaign contributions from corporations. If you go on and look at who's giving her thousands and thousands of dollars and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, it's real estate agencies, real estate insurance companies. And I look at the boards of each of those companies, and the majorities of every single board is a white male majority. And that's, I mean, one reason why we need to get just corporations out of politics. And you're not going to get that with the status quo. But I'm bringing that up because the question that was asked last was, what would you vote for if you had your chance elected, that would get passed? And look, I love the Green New Deal, and honestly, like, yeah, that's it. But something that's very important right now is landlords, because of COVID and because their tenants lost jobs. I know what that's like right now, and believe me, well, they can't pay their landlords. And if there's a hold and tenants don't have to pay, that's great for the tenants for now, but the landlords have to pay taxes. And the landlords are going to have to foreclose because they can't pay. And then you're going to have exactly what happened in the Great Depression, which is big corporations are going to come in and buy up all the foreclosed real estate, and they're going to price gouge all the low incomes who live on the front lines out. And where are they going to go? They don't know. They don't have a plan. But so that Ilhan Omar actually proposed a bill that would basically save landlords. There's a great amount of people who are landlords, and they use that as their income. It's not all corporations that own buildings. It's going to be really hard for them to pay their taxes when it's time to collect. So I just wanted to mention that was what I would have voted for. And I want to be a congressperson because I'm a fighter, and I also am open and love hearing great ideas. And this is a great forum, James. Thank you. And thank you everyone else who participated and contributed. And I hope I was able to contribute something. Thank you.
No, you definitely did contribute something. And definitely, if we have time, I would like to stay on that landlord thing as a additional discussion, because you mentioned the valid point that not all landlords are like these classic, misers that have like 100 properties. There's people that are trying to save their house, because just because you own a property doesn't mean you really own it. The bank owns it, and you're paying a bank, so you need to have some way to, take care of that bill. So hopefully there's time to have that larger discussion.
Yeah.
And Harry, you're next.
There's the unmute button. So one of the things that I hear often is people saying, oh, but you can't actually win the seat. And the thing is, taking the seat isn't the only way we win. Yes, we want to take the seats. Yes, we want an outright victory if we can manage to do that. But in my case specifically, my district has been held by a conservative Republican for decades, and this year he's not seeking re-election. So this means that the seat is much more in play to change leadership this year than in most years when there's an incumbent with that advantage. And this is a Democrat-controlled state at the state government level. And if the Democrat manages to win, the Democrats gain something. If the Republicans win, they only keep what they already had. So in my case, if I can actually spoil the election, I don't have to win. I just need to make the Democrat not win because I made more people show up for me and the Republican got the plurality and what have you. That's how spoiling works. Then the Republicans keep what they already had, and the Democrats now have a selfish best interest, where if the Democrats who control the New York State government had given us ranked choice voting when we asked for it, which we've been asking for years, they could have won this seat if, as they always claim, everybody who votes Green would have voted Democrat if we weren't there. Well, then you would have gotten the second choice of all the Green Party voters. So that's one thing that I wanted to add on from before. I want to thank James for hosting this gathering and all the other candidates for tossing their hats in the ring. And I'd like all of you watching to join me in this fight. Sign up for my email list so we can keep in touch. Also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. All the details for how to do that are on my website, burgerforcongress.com. I've also tried to put them out into the various chat windows. And if that's all you can do right now, I know times are tough for a lot of us, but since I don't take the corporate money, I very much need your financial support. You need to do advertising. We need to spend on postage and mailings and lawn signs and all the things like that. These all cost money. And we'd rather have a little bit of money from a lot of people than a lot of money from a few people. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, like I said before, yeah, I would love publicly funded campaigns, but you know, this is a situation where we're in right now. People won't know about you guys unless you do have some money to get some materials or mailings, and especially now because it's so much harder to go door to door, I'm imagining, for all of you guys, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no more knocking on doors, but one of the things I want to do at a certain point is dropping off door hangers. So instead of having a face-to-face conversation with people where, you know, we don't have to spend money on stamps, we can just saturate a neighborhood with hanging these things on the doorknob and walk away. It's not as good as an in-person contact, but at least it puts my name in front of people before they walk into the ballot box and like, who's this guy?
Yeah, actually, you know, and we have a few seconds. So out of curiosity, how are you all, everyone else, how are you managing during this shutdown? How are you managing to do, because grassroots, we're on the ground all the time. That's what we do. We go to the you know, the farmer's market, you know, wherever people were, and hand out flyers, all that kind of stuff. And now it's like almost impossible to do that. So how are you all handling this? And you can, yeah, there you go, the sign. Yeah, you can go ahead, Justin. I'll try not to moderate too much.
One thing I'm doing, and I'm not sure how effective it is, but I'm doing Facebook advertisements just because you can target them to people in your district. You know, so you can say, I just want this ad to show up for people who are in this congressional district, which is nice. And you can target by other things, like you can exclude people who like Fox News, for example. You know, so you can narrow down the audience. And for you know, $10 a day, you can run an ad that'll be seen by 100, maybe 1,000 people. And so I just try to create content that I think will be engaging. I try to find a story and that to share, a news story to share. And I write an article, you know, I just like I normally do on Facebook, I write my thoughts about it. And then instead of just sharing it to my page, I also spend a little money to share it more broadly in the district. So I'm trying to gain some name recognition that way through the internet, because, you know, yeah, with COVID, there's not a lot of events. There's not a lot of, you know, and it's 700,000 people in the district. So trying to meet people door to door, I feel, I don't know. And it is really expensive trying to get those, you know, door hangers, postcards, lawn signs. They all cost money. Running for office, I've never done it before. I'm learning a lot about it. It is difficult. It is difficult. And, you know, it would be nice if we had, it would be a lot better if we had publicly financed campaigns. And also, you know, like we have public service announcements on TV. the debates should be like that, and even the advertisements should be like that. Give every person a certain amount of time to share their message on different media. The airwaves are public. That's why we have, public access TV. The radio waves are publicly owned, just I'm sorry, was it Maria was talking about, or Marcia, sorry, that, the corporations have charters that are given by the government, and that includes broadcast government corporations, television, radio. So we could require them to help democracy and participate by, instead of selling all these ads to everybody, using democracy as a profit-making tool. They could just help us out, and we could demand that they help us out because we own them. We give them their charters. So we could demand, look, this is what you have to do. You have to create a public forum for candidates and let candidates get their ideas out there on your airwaves, because they're public airwaves, and this shouldn't have to cost any money, because this is a public good where people should just be able to share their ideas and then let voters decide who they want to vote for.
Yeah, very good. And Marcia, you're in hiding again. Is there anything you'd like to add in these final few minutes?
So one of the best ways that I've built my name recognition is by running more than once. It's more like a marathon, and you can't just be in a marathon. First of all, you're going to do maybe a 5K first, and then a half marathon, and then a marathon. And when you first do a marathon, you're not going to win first place the first time you run a marathon. So you're essentially in a race with yourself, from one competition to the next, from one race to the next. And so I found that running again and again, this is my third time, has really boosted my name recognition, because people remember me from just being a nobody back in 2016. I've been networking all over the country with fellow candidates and independent media, such as yourself. We got to get rid of the corporate media. So, that's one of the ways I like to promote my campaign, is through smaller independent channels that could be posted to YouTube or Facebook or wherever, because we are the media. And then also this time around, I'm doing yard signs and T-shirts and face masks. And so in addition to bumper stickers and business cards, and that stuff does run money, but you're starting from scratch. You got to build from nothing. But people really do like the message. I wasn't even going to run this time around, just because of the way it is panning out this year. But enough of my supporters asked me to run again, so I did, because no one else was even going to run. So they have donated to my campaign because they asked me to run this time. And so, it's a very humbling experience when you've got supporters asking you to run again. I'm to the point now, this past week, AP News and NBC News reached out to me asking me for my campaign photo. That's so huge. This is my third time running for a federal office, but their first time noticing. But it's because I broke into the polls at 4%. So, I started to raise some eyebrows over here, and all it took was some elbow grease, and in my time and effort. It doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes longer when you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah. Wow. I cannot tell you the goose pimples. If you guys could see, oh my God. When you talked about the press taking notice of you, that I was just,
Yeah, it's exciting. Last time I made it into Vice News, the day before the election, and just as a fluke, there was some rogue Facebook page promoting people and misquoting me, saying I wanted to cut military spending by 100%, which I've never said that ever. So it made the news, and it made Vice News or whatever, but that was obviously the day before the election. So it's pretty exciting. I've gotten invited to a couple of local TV networks, in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, later next month. So, the more organizations that recognize the multi-partisan system are, I'm obviously spending my time where I'm invited, and the more noise we make, the more they have to listen to us.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. We're almost at time, and just wanted to thank you all personally, for joining. And you're all my heroes. I mean, you're doing something I wish I could do right now because it's so important that people need you as champions. There's so many people that are just sort of walking around and sort of going through the motions of what the two-party system, or I don't even say two-party, the major two parties are offering them, and just saying, well, I guess I'll just have to do this, or I guess I have to do this, or I guess I won't make a choice, and you being out there and pushing your platforms and talking about the Green Party as a viable option. You all have my support. So, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to close the stream, externally, but we could still hang out and chat about, because I love Natalie so much. If, I want to move to Oregon right now.
It's too smoky. So we can't see outside. I mean, we can't see the neighbor's house.
Oh my God.
Across the street.
To let people on the street, outside the stream know, or outside the Zoom meeting know, like Natalie during the meeting, she's sort of sharing like resources for the other candidates. And that's the kind of thing that I love to do. And I wish we could do more of that on a regular basis, of just sharing resources, because, one candidate's doing something and just getting together and having, a meeting about it and discussion about it. Just like Douglas said, he's the back end data guy, and the back end data is so important. That's what the major, Democratic, Republican candidates do all the time. And that's how they run these very small targeted campaigns, because they know if only they get 50% turnout, that's fine, because they're only going to target like the 25% or 26% that they need to win an election, right? So, and look, the numbers that you sent out before, like 58% voter turnout in 2016 for president. So that means, what, 27% or so of the population as a whole elected this president. So that's what the major parties focus on, and that's why they pick and choose what states they go to, and that's why, I'll say it, Hillary did not go to the states that she lost to. Big surprise. So thank you all, and thank you everyone that's watching. I'm going to cut off the stream for you guys, and we're going to stay here and chit-chat. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.